Hello everyone! I'm going to share with you today a dish that I sort of improvised one day and it's delicious, so it's stuck. I really like this pizza ravioli, what I call it, because it uses almost 100% pantry and freezer staples. So first I'm going to show you the ravioli I use. This is from Costco. If you have a membership or a friend with membership, I highly recommend you get this one. Spinach and mozzarella ravioli. It's frozen. It's amazing. It's very, very good ravioli. It's a little pricey, but I think it's worth it. If this is a little out of your budget, you can always just use dried pasta from the grocery store. It's not going to be as pizza-full, but it's going to be fine. You can also use tortellini or anything else from the refrigerator section of the grocery store. But anyway, I'm using this. It comes with a couple bags of herbed parmesan, which we're also going to use in the dish. We're going to use one of the bags. If you don't get this particular brand and it doesn't come with the parm, of course, just use parm. And I'm going to use about 4 cups of this total for 2 people, so I've just set that aside. You don't want to thaw it out before you cook it, but it's okay if it sits on the counter while I prep everything else. And that's my cat squawking because he wants more food. Sorry, sweetie, you already had your breakfast. So while I'm prepping the rest of my ingredients, I'm already rendering about a half a cup of diced bacon. It renders faster if you have a lid on it, so I'm doing that. And I'm also heating a big pot of water with salt in it. So like I mentioned before, this all is basically pantry staples. I always have garlic, I always have canned black olives, I always have, well, I don't always, but I often have sun-dried tomatoes and pine nuts and Calabrian chilies. These are all shelf-stable things that you can keep in your pantry or your countertop, and so this dish is a great thing to just throw together if you need something. So for the olives, I'm just going to roughly chop those with my knife. So when I say that this is pizza ravioli, I mean like American chain pizzeria style pizza, which holds a special place in my heart. I know it's not like the best pizza, but you know, Round Table in particular, I just love it. I grew up with it. It was always a special treat because we couldn't really afford to go out to eat very often. And black olive is my husband's and one of our favorite pizza toppings. Our favorite is pepperoni, which we're simulating with bacon. And our second favorite is olive. You can also put mushroom in this. I put mushroom in it yesterday, in fact, but I used up all of my mushrooms, so there's no mushroom today. Sorry if you can hear my cat squawking in the background. He insists he needs his lunch now, even though it's 9:30 in the morning. If you're vegetarian or you don't have bacon, no worries, just use olive oil. I do think the bacon really adds a huge dimension to this dish, though. Now see, you don't have to be really careful, just kind of roughly chop the olives. The garlic, mince that. You want to keep these ingredients separate, ideally, because we're going to add them in different times. Doesn't have to be a perfect mince. And for the sun-dried tomatoes, these were huge in the 90s, I remember, and I never got on the sun-dried tomato train, but now I really like them. They're very sweet, and they act similarly flavor-wise in a dish to tomato paste, but you know, they don't make your dish saucy like tomato paste would, but they impart this really delicious tomatoey flavor and a sweetness to the dish, and it's really nice. And it's nice that they're shelf stable. You can just always have sun-dried tomatoes on hand, and then it's a way of always adding some kind of, you know, vegetable matter to a dish that you're cooking, even if you haven't been able to go grocery shopping in a while. So partly why I'm making this dish is because we have had, I'm filming this, I don't know when I'm going to wind up posting this, but I filmed this during that huge Arctic blast that just rocked the entire US pretty much. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so we don't have the infrastructure to deal with hard freezes or snow. So things just kind of tend to shut down when our roads ice over and when we get snow. And we've had bitter cold. It hasn't been above freezing for a whole week. It's just not safe for me to drive. So something like this is great to fall back on. So that's all the prep work done. Again, you could add mushrooms, you could add any other pizza toppings you like peppers or the spinach. There's spinach in the ravioli though, so I'm not going to bother. But yeah, this is the base of it. I do believe my burners are running a bit on the weak side today, because I have this on medium and it's not really rendering the bacon as quickly as I'd like. Anyway, we want to render most of the fat out of the bacon. It doesn't have to be completely crisp, but we're going to render most of the fat out of the bacon before we start adding the other ingredients. And meanwhile, our water is almost coming up to a boil. If it boils too early, it's fine. It can just keep boiling. It'll warm up the kitchen. Kitchen's freezing cold right now, so that'll be nice. Okay, the bacon is not entirely rendered yet, but a lot of fat has come out, so I'm going to add some pine nuts now. I think this is actually my first time adding pine nuts, but I thought they'd be delicious, and I happen to have some. And it's nice to add them at the beginning so they toast up a little bit, get more flavorful. And you might be thinking to yourself, Sarah, aren't you going to skim the bacon fat out? No. Bacon fat is flavor, it is delicious, and it's going to help build the sauce. If you use like really, really fatty bacon, you might want to skim some of it off, but I think this is a great amount of fat for this dish. That was, I don't know, like a tablespoon or two of pine nuts. I never use a recipe for this. You could use anchovy instead of or in addition to bacon too if you wanted. Also at this stage I'm going to add in the Calabrian chili. My husband and I like a little heat, so I'm adding a couple little spoonfuls. It's maybe like a tablespoon of Calabrian chili total. Calabrian chili is a little expensive. You can always just use red pepper flakes. But the Calabrian chili adds a really lovely fruity flavor to this dish. So, you know, if you happen to have Calabrian chilies already, then use them. But otherwise, just use red pepper flakes. And speaking of pepper, I'm going to add some black pepper right now and wake it up in the fat. That's going to be delicious. I'm going to add the sun-dried tomatoes. They'll hydrate a little bit in this oil and other moisture. And this is when it starts to smell so good. Okay, at this point, I suspect I am going to have about 7 minutes left in this, so I'm going to boil my ravioli. Because according to the package instructions, it takes about 7 minutes. And I'm going to boil it about 5 to 6 minutes in the water and then finish it off in the sauce. You'll want one of these guys, a spider, to help move them around. You never want these ravioli to boil at a rapid boil, so if this starts boiling again, I'm going to turn down the heat. You can add the olives because they are not at risk of overcooking. We're going to add the garlic a little later so it won't risk burning. Meanwhile, off camera, I made 2 simple pantry carrot salads. I do believe I have a video dedicated to these. If I do, I will link it. If I don't, I guess I'll have to make that video because this is a great salad that my husband thought of one day, and it uses all pantry staples as well. It's carrot, which is a good refrigerator staple, pepitas or pumpkin seeds, dried cherries, and then a simple vinaigrette of cider vinegar, olive oil, black pepper, salt, and a little dash of honey. It's so good and healthy because this over here is not super healthy. Parts of it are healthy, but parts of it are not very healthy. So add some nutrients with a nice healthy veggie side. This is also a great weeknight dish, as they say. I don't have weeknight dishes or weekend dishes or whatever because I work 6 days a week, and like even on my day off it feels like a work day because I do so many personal creative projects and I work at home. So to me there is no like weekday, weekend dichotomy with cooking. I just cook what I want to cook when I cook it. But yeah, for those of you who have a 9-to-5 job outside the house and you want something quick and simple to cook on a Wednesday night, for example, like this is a pretty good dish. Start to finish, it comes together in probably 20 minutes if you know what you're doing. And if you're not like filming yourself and moving a camera around all the time. It's even faster if you don't use the bacon, if you just use olive oil, because you can just start building the sauce then. Oh, that smells so good. I'm gonna add my garlic now. And it's gonna smell even gooder. You can add red onion to this too. I've done that before. Really any topping. Oh, artichoke heart would be nice, and it's also a pantry staple. Anything that you'd put on your pizza, go ahead and put it in here. I think really the key to bring it all together and make it pizza ravioli is to use mozzarella cheese ravioli, and then to build the sauce out of pizza-full flavors like tomato and chili and, in my case, olive, garlic. We're going to be adding some Italian herbs with the Parmesan cheese later. So there's that in there as well. It's just lovely. It has everything. But I'm going to make one quick note about salt because you may have noticed I have not added any salt yet. And I'm going to add that at the end because bacon has salt, olives have salt, Parmesan cheese has salt, the pasta water has salt. We have a lot of salty ingredients going in here anyway, so we don't need to add very much salt at all, and I'm gonna salt it at the end. This is boiling a bit too hard, so I just now turned it down, and I'm very gently agitating them. They're not sticking together. Honestly, guys, frozen ravioli are a game changer. They are great. They are pretty, at least these are of pretty high quality. They taste, as far as I know, just as good as fresh. They cook up really easily, and they can just sit in your freezer waiting for when you need them. Okay, the ravioli need only a couple more minutes, so it's time to start building the sauce. I'm gonna steal, this is like about a half a cup of pasta water. And I'm gonna start building the sauce. You can also add white wine to this if you want. It'll take it a little away from Pizzaville, but it'll probably be tasty. And I'm just gonna dump all this Parmesan in here. This is not very good quality Parmesan. I don't think anyway. It's probably not the best parm. I don't know, Costco tends to have pretty good quality food. But by adding it to some liquid into the sauce, this cheese ought to melt evenly and nicely and emulsify in here. Looks like I'm gonna need a little more pasta water. So yeah, this part is very intuitive. It's not a recipe. You just keep adding pasta water until you get a decent consistency. And we want this to be on the wetter side, because when I add the ravioli in a minute, they're gonna soak up that delicious, very, very flavorful sauce. And of course this, I call this a sauce. You might not think it's a sauce. It's a very chunky saute of stuff suspended together with some cheese and pasta water. I'm going to add a little more pasta water. I mean, you could also add cream. Again, that would take it away from Pizzaville, but it would probably be very tasty. Okay, it's looking a little more emulsified. It's looking a little more saucy. Now I'm going to add the ravioli, hopefully without knocking over my tripod. So yeah, with ravioli, don't even bother dumping them into a strainer. You risk breaking the ravioli into your strainer and gumming it up, and then you also risk the ravioli like falling apart on you. It's easier to just transfer it directly to your skillet with a spider like I did just now, and it's totally okay if water comes off with these ravioli. In fact, you kind of want that. So I just very gently toss the ravioli. Sometimes you have a broken ravioli, it's not the end of the world. I just toss it in here for a minute or two so that the sauce has a chance to penetrate these ravioli, give them some delicious pizza-ful flavor. It smells so good. Oh, see, this ravioli here burst open. Don't know if you can tell, but it's totally fine. If you wanted to make this dish healthier, you could totally add some greens, some chard, some kale, some spinach. I mean, there's spinach in the ravioli, but you know, if you want to make it a little healthier, you can add those greens. Or you can do what we're doing and just have a salad on the side. I don't think this dish is really meant to be healthy. It's meant to be rather indulgent. Looking a little dry, so I'm going to add just a little more pasta water. And another 30 seconds to a minute and we will be done. First, I have to check for seasoning, as chefs would say. Salt. I'm just gonna try this broken ravioli. Get it in some of this sauce. For me, that's like just about perfect. I know my husband's gonna want a little more salt. I'll go ahead and add a little more salt. If you've seen more of my videos, you know how I feel about salt and chefs being snobby about us plebs not adding enough salt to our food. It's like everybody has different tolerances of salt. You should add salt to taste. Yes, add salt to your food because it'll make it taste better, but you know, don't let some snobby chef scold you into thinking you have to add way more salt than you actually like. All right, we are done. It is silky, it is beautiful. Okay, I'm not much of a food stylist, so I would definitely call this hashtag ugly delicious. But it is very delicious. It is intensely flavorful. It is comforting. It is satisfying. It is a bit familiar with that pizzeria flavor. And yeah, it's all made from mostly pantry staples. Oh, it's so good.